Welcome to the Secrets of College Planning. I'm your host, Anthony Uva, and today we're going to get some insight into swimming at the college level. My guest today is Coach Nic Askew. He is the head men's and women's swimming and diving coach at Howard University, and welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it. Excited to be here.
Sure. So, Coach, usually I start my guests where they went to college. So where'd you go to school?
I'm actually a graduate of Howard University. I'm proud to be back in my alma mater in this capacity. It's a dream come true to be able to have come to attend your university in undergrad and then come back in a capacity like this.
Great. So let's just go back in time a little bit. In high school, when did you start thinking about going to college? And I guess you swam at the college level.
I did. I was recruited to come from several schools, and I made a decision to come to Howard. And I think when it really made sense to me was probably a sophomore year of high school.
Okay.
I'd been swimming for many years and playing other sports as well. And I think that I had a pretty big breakthrough in a couple of events, and that's when it really came to my mind that, wow, swimming at the collegiate level is definitely a possibility. I also had the benefit of having an older brother who swam in college, so he really kind of blazed the trail for me and got that seed planted. But I think it really nailed it down when I made those cuts, probably around my sophomore year.
So now, how did you end up picking Howard University to go swim at?
I always wanted to swim for Division I HBCU, and at the time there was only three in existence: North Carolina A&T, Florida A&M, and Howard University. And I had visited multiple schools and campuses. Being from North Carolina, I had an opportunity to visit a lot of schools there and check out their programs. And swimming in the North Carolina area, I had an opportunity to compete at meets on different college campuses. Which was really exciting. But I think the ultimate decision came down to just me feeling really comfortable here at Howard when I did my recruitment visit. And I also, that older brother and my oldest brother, they both attended Howard. So I think it was already meant to be, and it was not really my choice, but they at least made me feel like I made the decision. But yeah, it was great to have two older brothers who had been to Howard already, and I had an opportunity to see the campus. But it was also good to have an opportunity to see other college campuses, to meet other coaches and programs before I made my final decision.
So did they swim as well at Howard, or they did something else?
My middle brother swam at Howard. My oldest brother, he didn't like the 5:30 a.m.s and the cold water. So, and quietly, he probably was the best swimmer of us all, but it just wasn't for him.
So now you're at Howard University, and you're swimming there. What's it like at Howard University as an athlete swimming there yourself?
It was an amazing experience. I cherished those 4 years. I met some amazing people. It was great to be able to be in an environment where that was different than any other environment that I had ever been in. Swimming on a team that was comprised mostly of African Americans was something that I wasn't accustomed to, growing up, and being able to come here and see individuals who had the same kind of perception that I did and had some of the same goals and even bigger goals than I had at that time allowed me to grow and to, feel comfortable and confident in my environment and to ultimately become the best version of myself. Being at Howard is a very, very unique opportunity, not just as a student athlete, but definitely as a student, to be here on the same campus that so many great leaders in our country have attended classes and have graduated from. It's just amazing, and the network of friends and relationships that I built during that time were just tremendous, and most of those did come from swimming and the athletic department.
Great. Now, so you graduate from Howard. How does one go from graduating from Howard University to becoming the head men's and women's swimming and diving coach there?
Well, For me, I don't know if my story is any blueprint for anyone. When I actually came to Howard, I actually played two sports. I was a Division I swimmer and a Division I tennis player. So I played both sports all 4 years. And once I graduated from Howard, my goal was to go to medical school. So immediately after graduating, I was continuing to study for the MCAT. I was taking post-bachelorate courses. And my direction was going into medical school. Nothing was going to stop me from that. And then I had a few experiences in life, did a little bit more research. The cost was a big factor of medical school, and the debt factor was huge. Looking into all that. And then that middle brother that I spoke about, I unfortunately lost him to cancer. And that was probably the thing that really had me change my mind and decide that I wanted to stay in the sciences and in the health field, but I wanted to try to do something different and make an impact on the other side of things. Medical school is absolutely phenomenal. It would have been a great option, but I didn't really want to go into the side that was more on the treatment side. I wanted to do something more, at least I feel, is more in the preventative style and trying to instill healthy mindsets into individuals at every level. So I just, all that while I was coaching tennis and coaching swimming, both on the individual and team level. And I just fell in love, with what I was being able to do. And every night I would go home and be up all night writing drills and, thinking about different ways of how to bring out the most of the people that I was working with. And, when we lost my brother, I really said, you know what, I think I want to do this full time. I want to live a fulfilled life. I want to make sure that I'm making an impact, from this direction. And I put away the textbooks for the MCAT and all of that, and started, going much heavier into coaching. And fast forward a few years, I got into a conversation with the athletic director, or the former athletic director here at Howard, and he noticed that I still had my name on the record board from, back in the late 90s. And he said, would you ever think about coming back to Howard to coach? And I said, I'd love to have that conversation. And lo and behold, 5 years later, or not 5 years later, but not that far much after that conversation, I was tabbed as the next head coach.
Wow, fantastic. So now let's get into swimming and diving. How do you go about finding students to come to Howard University to swim and dive?
My recruitment is comprised of making sure that the team is a reflection of the university. Howard being a historically Black college and university in the HBCU, we recruit, or we have students come from all over the world, mainly from the African diaspora, so from the African continents through the Caribbean, as well as the continental U.S. So when I'm looking for student athletes, I'm looking for individuals who will most likely continue to fit the reflection of the university, as well as making sure that we're continuing to be as inclusive as possible. When HBCUs were founded, they were founded on the basis of inclusion, because at that time, minorities were not allowed to be able to go to certain institutions. So we continue that same thread today. With my recruiting, the number one thing I look at is academics first. It serves no one any good to have an amazing athlete, an amazing swimmer, but their grades will not allow them to graduate from college. In our sport, it's great to be able to become a professional swimmer and to go on to the Olympics and to potentially medal, but there's not a lot of career that can be made from that. There's definitely some avenues, but there's not a wide open as it is with other sports. So for us, the main thing is making sure that the students come here. They understand that they're here to get a phenomenal education, as well as to make the best opportunity possible to become the fastest swimmer or the best diver that they can. So when I'm looking at recruits, grades are the number one thing, making sure that they have a solid reputation in the classroom through their GPA, making sure they have solid standardized test scores, whether the SAT or the ACT, and then making sure that their times or their list of dives are going to make an impact in our program. And then after that, it all comes into character, making sure that that individual is going to be a good fit for the culture of our program, a program that we've continued to raise the bar with year after year to make sure that everybody's one job is to make the team better, including myself. So they're bringing something to the table in one way or the other.
So now you said something about time for swimming and diving. What are some of the times that a student male athlete needs compared to a student female athlete needs to go to college to swim at a level such as Howard University?
Yeah, absolutely. We do the same thing as most other schools. We publish our time standards. We have two categories. One is our walk-on category. So in order to be considered for the team, you have to have one or more of those time standards. And to be considered for a swimming or diving scholarship, you have to have one or more of those scholarship level standards. For us, the most attractable or the most attractive swimmer or diver for us is someone who has a variety of those time standards. So not just one, even though that's a consideration, but the ones that we know they make the most impact are the ones that are most versatile. So not only will they have the 50 free time standard, but they also have the 100 backstroke or the 200 IM or the 500 freestyle time standard. Because that way, in a college atmosphere, you may specialize in one event, but, depending on how things go, someone gets sick, someone gets injured, we may need to have someone fill in that spot. So every event that we swim at the college level, we have a time standard for that could either have you listed as a roster spot potential or a scholarship potential athlete.
And then in diving, is it like twists and I don't know exactly the terms.
Yeah, that was pretty good. So depending on your diving list, which will include dive, swift, twist, tuck, pike. There's also the difference between 1 meter, 3 meter dive, which is what we compete at both in the dual meet as well as conference championships. Bigger schools also compete on the platform. But we don't have platform here at Howard. It includes those as well. And the diving list would include the different forms of the dives that you can do, whether it's a forward or a double or a triple. And then you add, like you said, add a double with a twist. You do a reverse, all those different things that, and each of those comes with a degree of difficulty. So the degree of difficulty basically multiplies the dive, which will also, if you do it correctly and you do it well, you perform it well, your score will increase.
Gotcha. So now a student athlete comes to Howard University. What can they expect? How does it all start? Does it start in August, September? And give me a whole year's worth of what a swimmer or a diver goes through at Howard University.
Yeah, absolutely. Everything kind of really catches fire in August. The week or 2 weeks before freshman week is really an exciting time. It's a really busy time. Families are trying to organize, make sure they have all their paperwork together, make sure they have all the shopping done, get their rooms together, make sure they have all their equipment as they're coming into the school. So a lot of phone calls, emails, and text messages. Do I need this? Do I need that? No, you can leave that here, or, buy it once you get to the city. Those types of conversations are really fun. And then the freshmen are here for the first week, and it's all fresh. All the freshmen are here, not just student athletes. And they have a week of basically getting them acclimated to the university, different workshops, different seminars, different mandatory sessions within their different disciplines and the schools that they're enrolled in. For us, we don't begin practice. Our first official practice begins the first week of September, right after the holiday. And then we go through phases of training. Those phases go from our base training, which when they first get here, they go from power to speed, then to taper, mini taper rather, going into mid-season championships, which is the end of November, beginning of December. Just before that, if I need to go backwards, we begin competing in the 1st of October.
Hmm.
And that's when we have our first meets. That's the first opportunity to see our returners and how well they're doing this year or in that particular season, as well as get a chance to see our freshmen for the first time competing in a college atmosphere. All that while, they're continuing to go to classes. All of our freshmen and some of our upperclassmen have study hall hours that they have to do as a part of our mandatory enrichment or services for the student athletes. We also have team study hall every week. Once a week, the entire team comes together and we have one big study hall session. I feel really confident that that's been one of the reasons why we've done so well academically, is because they get to see each other outside of the pool. They get to discuss the classes, whether they're taking them together or if an upperclassman has had that professor, they get a chance to talk to the underclassmen, which is really great. And once that all wraps up, right about now, where we are in December, they have finals. Because we're a winter sport, we're continuing to train, and they're allowed to go home for winter break for about 10 days, almost 2 weeks, to spend time with their families, and then they return back to campus to begin training again. And then the dual meets start again in January, and then we have conference championships in February, which are at Liberty University, which is in Lynchburg, Virginia this year. Once we finish conference championships, if we have any NCAA qualifiers, we go right back to training to get them ready for the NCAAs, which is usually in March, first week or two in March. And then we go into off-season training. Again, all the while, we're continuing our study hall habits, we're continuing our meetings, we're continuing our discussions about, academics first is our number one priority, continuing to train. Depending on where we are in the season is how much emphasis we're putting in the water and our dry land, which includes yoga, cardio, weight training, those different things. So it's a pretty full year that wraps up in late April. They have their finals and then they start to go home, and then graduation for our seniors is in May, and then they start their summer training. Some of the student athletes will stay here on campus throughout the summer and take summer school courses, and they'll have an opportunity to continue to train with the facilities and coaches that we have here. And then it starts all over again.
Jeez. So usually a question that parents always ask is financial difficulties of college these days. What does Howard University do with people that might not have the funds to come to school?
That's a great question. I think every parent, needs to do a lot of research in terms of what the costs are for the schools that they're looking for their kids. Howard University offers an amazing package for academic scholarships. They usually every year they'll have the criteria to be considered for those academic scholarships, and I think over the years they've given out some incredible packages to several individuals that come to the university. Usually it is to give you kind of an idea of the criteria. The student athletes, or the students rather, need to have at least a 29 or 30 on the ACT, or on the SAT they need to have around a 1250 to 1300 on the SAT score, and need to have at least a 3.4 GPA to be considered for the academic scholarships. Obviously, just like any other scholarship, they're competitive. So, if you have a large pool that has larger scores, then you may want to give yourself a little bit more cushion and shoot for a 33 on the SAT or on the ACT, and a 1350 on the SAT, and have a 3.5 GPA. But that's something that parents and the students and their kids need to really be working on as soon as they get to high school. That freshman year, sophomore year, get off to a great start freshman year with doing really well as A's and B's in their grades, and continue that trend, because that's going to give them the best possibility to attain an academic scholarship. From the swimming side and diving side, or from the sports side in general, it has to do with for us, the time standards and the diving list of scores for our divers to be considered for an athletic scholarship. Um, there's way more money offered for academic scholarships. Let's say, for instance, an individual has a 33 ACT score and a 3.5 GPA. It's highly likely that that individual will receive, full tuition, housing, and meals at the university. Again, it just depends on, the competitiveness for the scholarships, but that puts them in a really good place to be considered for that. From an athletic perspective, we're not a fully funded program. So our scholarship range, usually maximum we can give any one swimmer or diver, is around 50% of the cost to attend Howard University. What's beautiful is our team is comprised of about a little over 60% of our student athletes are on academic scholarship. So when you combine the academic scholarship with what we can offer from a athletic perspective, they could be very close to a full scholarship with academics and athletics. That's what's ideal for us, and that's one of the things we strive for to continue to grow our team, because we know we don't have a lot of scholarship money to offer from the swimming and diving perspective. So in order to grow our program, we need to also be searching out those that are performing well academically.
Now, some coaches say for students in high school, they don't always want them to just do high school swimming. They should be doing some outside swimming. Is there any particular avenues that these students should be in, not just high school swimming, but other avenues as well?
Oh, yes, absolutely. One of the reasons as a coach, as a college coach, we continue to advocate for them to do, in addition to high school swimming, is because high school swimming is seasonal. So, that depending on where they are, that could be 4 months to 6 months of swimming. And then, what do they do with the rest of the time? Hopefully they're also on a club team, which trains and competes year round. That's where I think, most coaches will agree with me that those are your stronger swimmers. Swimming's not a sport that you can train and compete for 6 months, take 6 months off, and then come back and expect to be as fast. No, not even close. You have to have a plan for your entire year to train and to compete so that you can peak at the right moments and, really swim the fastest possible. So absolutely, they need to be swimming year round to be considered for, get a roster position in a swimming program, or even to be considered for a scholarship time. Because, to really think about it, even those that are just that gifted and talented to get a scholarship level time, and they only swim high school, that's amazing. However, if they haven't been swimming year round and then they come into a college environment, it's very rigorous. They are probably more susceptible to injuries due to not having that training base behind them, that once they get to college and they're doing all the things that we're doing in terms of training, the amount of hours both in the water, in the weight room, in the cardio, et cetera, those are probably going to be the ones that are going to see the most injuries because their bodies just aren't used to training year round. So yes, they definitely need to be a part of a year-round program as well.
Now, are there camps that students should be doing as well? Any kind of camps?
Camps are always great. From my perspective as a coach, not just at the collegiate level, but just as a developmental coach, I think when you can have an opportunity to have other coaches or be around other swimmers or divers, that's just going to make that person more globally minded. That's going to make them stronger. They're going to have a different set of eyes on them that can help them, achieve their best. As a coach and as a program, I think, from a developmental perspective, we're all just a piece of the puzzle. There's no one cookie cutter way or one, age group program or one coach that can tell everyone, one thing or do one thing that's going to make them the best swimmer. I think we're all just a piece of the puzzle. And so being able to go to camps, we started a camp here on campus just last year, and we're going to continue to roll that out every year. There's several other camps on college campuses that give you an opportunity to interact and engage with other swimmers and divers that are also looking to go to the college level and compete. And especially to a lot of those camps are, have the head coach on that staff as well as some of the swimmers on that staff. So you get a great chance to kind of connect with them to find out, what as a future collegiate swimmer, what's your journey and what's your pathway is going to look like.
Great. So we're coming to the end of our show, and I usually ask my guests, what advice do you want to give to the parents and the students, the sons and daughters that want to come to Howard University? What advice do you want to give them?
Yeah, I think the best bit of advice I can give is remember, it's not a sprint. It's a marathon. This journey has lots of ups and downs, twists and turns. Just stay on the course, continue to be diligent, continue to keep training. There are going to be times where they're not going to feel like training. They're going to feel like the training's not working, but, trust the process. If you're a part of a good program and you trust in the coach, the benefits will come. Here at Howard University, that's something we preach all the time because, everyone's journey is a little bit different. You're going to have some injuries. You're going to have some setbacks. But at the end of the day, if you continue to put in the hard work and you're determined to get better, not just as an athlete, but also as a student, it will all come, it all work out, and just continue to push hard.
Great. Well, thank you very much for coming on the show. I appreciate it.
Anthony, I appreciate you having me. Thanks so much.
Yeah. So you've been watching The Secrets of College Planning. I'm your host, Anthony Uva. Until next time.